morning, everyone. Hi and welcome back to my channel. If you're a new subscriber, which I love you guys, thank you for getting us to 18,000 subscribers. So if you're new, welcome. God bless you. Thanks for the love. Yes. Those are mornings. Wakesho is in the vicinity as usual. She's like, don't even record me, but she did this beautiful face beat. I am about to go to moderate a Facebook Live with Nestle about complementary feeding, which, you know, anything to do with motherhood and maternal childcare really fascinates me and is also of such interest to me because I feel like there's a lot of information that needs to be put out there. So I'm going to do that in about an hour and a half, I think, and then probably do a sidebar conversation with the nutritionist to answer questions that I know won't get answered during the Facebook Live. So I hope you guys can look out for that. Also, can I give a quick comment about some of the feedback I got on the parenting video? It was so interesting to see the comments. Some of you were like, caning children is archaic, it should not be done at all. And others were like, thank you for the tips. Here's the thing. Remember I mentioned that parenting class is based on the Bible. You know, I think the Bible is pretty straightforward about caning and spare the rod, spoil the child. So if you're not, I mean, even those of you who are anti-caning and read the Bible, I mean, I don't want to say that you're wrong or I'm right. I was caned growing up, my siblings, everyone I know, and we turned out okay. I remember every instance in which my parents caned me. My dad would sit, explain to us what we've done wrong, and then cane us, and then hug us, love us, and say, I hope you've learned. And we did. And so for me, I can see the benefits if it's done right. The problem is if it's done wrong. And I think that's where the contention is. I've also not been feeling very great, guys. I've been so tired and moody and lethargic. And apparently the preciousness that is growing inside me is huge or big and is taking from me. So my energy levels have been very low. So today I'm just gonna try and be cute about the day. I love that I have my makeup ready. I have a couple of meetings later. I guess I'll see you guys on my way to Jadala Place, which is where the session is taking place. Hey all, so as I mentioned, I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live with Nestle on complementary feeding with Jackie. Hello. She's a new mama. And Jasper, hi. A dietitian based, he said not nutritionist, he's like, I'm a dietitian. He's based at Aga Khan University. So I guess I'll see you guys next when I'm chatting to the three of them, getting some questions answered. Like I mentioned, I'd be speaking to Jackie, who's the mother of a son who's about to be 5 months old, and Jasper, who's a dietitian based at Aga Khan. So first of all, very quickly, what's the difference between complementary feeding and weaning?
Complementary feeding is the introduction of solid and other liquids in addition to breast milk. Mm-hmm. And as we do complementary feeding, we continue with breastfeeding. In weaning is when we now reduce the amount of breastfeeding and step up
with the solids.
With the solid foods.
First of all, when is the right time to begin complementary feeding?
The World Health Organization recommends exclusive breastfeeding first 6 months of life.
Okay. Meaning?
The 6th birthday.
Right.
And at that time, the complementary food should just constitute like 2 to 3 tablespoons. Mm-hmm. And the majority of the requirements of the baby should be met with the breast milk.
I introduced water this month when he was turning 4, but I don't know if that was the right time. I also wanted to introduce food quite early, as I've said, because of his eating habits. They become quite...
He's got an appetite.
Throughout the night he's on my breast, trying to
take whatever
everything
is. And I'll even kind of like add on to what she said. I think for me, I started on his 5th monthversary, not 6th, because of the same thing.
I would say that starting after 4 months is not too early. When you start too early is starting below 4 months. And when you start after 8 months, that's also too late.
Very late, okay.
Yes. But pediatricians agree that children have different developmental milestones.
But now I'd also want to ask you, was me introducing water a complementary feeding?
Water does not have nutrients per se. But at that point, we now say you are no longer doing exclusive breastfeeding, because the definition of exclusive breastfeeding is giving breast milk alone and prescribed medication. That's the only thing allowed when you're doing exclusive breastfeeding. So right now you're breastfeeding, but it's not exclusive because you're already giving water.
But it's okay that she's giving water. It's not a problem.
There's no problem.
Okay.
The only problem is that when you're doing exclusive breastfeeding and you're doing it the right way with the right amount of breast milk, it's always believed that the baby should get enough water out of it. Yes. And water fills the tummy of the baby and replaces the milk. So once they've taken the water, they will not be able to breastfeed adequately. Now that's the problem.
The next question I was actually going to ask was that how do you introduce solids, and was me introducing infant cereal a good idea? Is it something that Jackie could try, or what are your thoughts?
Introducing infant cereal is a good idea, but based on what is recommended for resource-limited countries like ours, is that you should start with the natural foods.
So what's a good substitute for infant cereal at 4 or 5 months?
We can do the porridges. Could start with some fruits and vegetables, mashed potatoes,
anything
some
mashed,
pumpkins.
some
Yes.
pumpkin.
Yes.
Does that sound good to you?
It actually sounds good, which brings me now to another question I had for you. My mom keeps insisting I need to fry them. A little bit of oil, and
Yeah.
it's something I'm allowed to do at that age, at 5 months.
Exactly. Your mom is directing you in the right path.
High five.
When you start introducing complementary foods, you need to select food from different food groups. Children don't need a lot of salt, and they don't need a lot of sugar. Sugar and salt have been associated with health problems later on in life.
Disclaimer, there's a little bit of noise in the background. If you see me peeking this little mic, don't judge me. These are the hacks behind the scenes. Please bear with me, but I think you can hear us pretty well. How then do you do it? How often in the day? How do you do it so that their stomachs become accustomed to this new solids? And then the issue of constipation.
On constipation, it is normal for young children to stay for 2, 3, even 4 days without passing stool. What you need to watch out for is whether the stool, when it is being passed, is hard and the baby strains while passing the stool.
That means there's a problem.
Then there's a problem.
So still, how does she then introduce the solids? Let's say she decides to go with pumpkin or pawpaw.
Pumpkin or pawpaw. She should introduce one at a time. She should aim at 2 to 3 tablespoons around 2 to 3 times in a day.
I think I've learned a lot more in this session than I have in my research period. Yeah.
Are there any common myths that moms out there hear and they take them as fact, and you want to dispel those myths?
Number one, that babies do not need fat in their diet. When you don't give babies fat as you do your complementary feeding, and you're serving them vegetables, let's say for example pumpkin, which is very rich in vitamin A, and vitamin A dissolves in fat the way sugar dissolves in water. So if you lack fat in the diet, then the vitamin A in the pumpkin will not be absorbed to help the baby of the baby.
So when you say fat, what do you mean?
The oil that we add.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Number two, that proteins would cause allergies, whereby mothers fail to introduce protein giving foods to their babies up to a very later age.
So from what age can you give the protein?
At the age when you start complementary feeding.
Wow. Because my son reacts to egg now.
If you introduce them earlier, they are able to develop what we call oral tolerance.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That I didn't know.
The variety is very, very important before they hit 2 years. When they get to the age of 2 years, they start suffering what healthcare professionals call neophobia. They fear new foods being introduced into their diet, and then they become fussy feeders.
Interesting.
Yes.
Is there a way I'm supposed to give him the egg, like the white plus the yolk, or it's just one of either?
Good question.
Most of the allergies to egg protein are associated to the egg white. So you can try him with the egg yolk first and see without the egg white. But then later on you can introduce. If you introduce a food to a baby and they react, the best thing to do is to withdraw that food for 2 to 3 weeks, then you reintroduce it again. If they react, you pull it out again, another 2-3 weeks, then you reintroduce it. As you expose them to that food severally, they end up developing what I mentioned earlier called oral tolerance. Yes.
I've learned that today. That's
Yes.
super helpful. Women who've even asked me if my child has eczema, what do I do? If the mother of an HIV positive child, how does that complementary feeding change?
When a child has an allergic reaction that makes them have difficulty in breathing, then that food should be excluded. That is what we call anaphylaxis and can lead to death. An HIV positive mother should exclusively breastfeed. But once she starts complementary feeding, she stops, mainly because mixed feeding has been associated with mother-to-child transmission of HIV virus. So in a case of an HIV positive mother, that's when you talk of weaning at 6 months.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. That's good information.
Yes. You stop breast milk and you start complementary foods.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jasper. I like that you break down the information in such a simple way. It's not technical, it's not complicated. So thank you. And thanks, Jackie. You look like you're a little bit more confident.
I'm at ease.
You're at ease.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks as always for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and just keep sending in your suggestions because I do take them seriously. So for now, it's bye and I'll see you soon.